Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFO DFS report. I hope everybody enjoyed the throwback tune. It's been a while since we've pulled that one out. That was like the start of last year, I think, when we were using that intro. I honestly completely forgot about it, and it was just sitting here. I'm like, let's fire it back up. Might have to edit it up a little bit. I still got the old logo on there, but whatever. It was fun. It's Friday. Let's have a little fun. All right, we've got I believe, 6-game slate on our hands tonight. Pretty interesting slate as well. I do have a dinner to get to here in about 90 minutes, so I got to fly through these charts, and then I got to head over, get ready, and get to my dinner and start my weekend. So hopefully we don't waste too much time here. Let's jump right in. We'll start with the starting goalies for tonight's slate. We've got the Florida Panthers going with Sergei Bobrovsky, likely going to see Antti Ranta for the, I don't even think I'm on the right microphone right now. Such a Friday going right now. Yep. I probably sound infinitely better now. Hopefully I do. Okay, Sergei Bobrovsky going for the Florida Panthers. Antti Ranta likely to go for the Carolina Hurricanes. Joseph Woll starts for the Toronto Maple Leafs up against Dan Vladar for the Calgary Flames. Jacob Markstrom day-to-day. Dustin Wolf was recalled, will not start tonight. Kind of disappointing, but it looks like Wolf will probably go sometime tomorrow, most likely against Senators. So the Wolf versus Wolf matchup is not to be had tonight. Vitek Vanacek goes for the New Jersey Devils. Charlie Lindgren likely to get the start for the Washington Capitals. Darcy Kemper's a little bit banged up. Hunter Shepard comes up to service Lindgren's backup. The Buffalo Sabres likely to start Devon Levi up against Philip Gustafson for the Minnesota Wild. Aiden Hill confirmed to start for the Vegas Golden Knights against the suddenly red-hot San Jose Sharks, who will go with Kaapo Kähkönen. They've won 2 in a row. Look out for the San Jose Sharks. Lucas Dostal gets the nod for the Anaheim Ducks. And then previously it was confirmed that Carter Hart would return from injury and start this evening, and then he was scratched around 2:30 p.m. Eastern with an illness. So Sam Ersson gets the nod for the Philadelphia Flyers. You get like 5.5 to 1 if you bet the Sharks tonight. Absolutely insane. Yeah. These are like the kind of lines that I was like anticipating to see more recently. But Vegas obviously knew that the Oilers sucked and the Flyers were gettable. A little bit of exciting news. I've talked about it before that eventually I wanted to get the charts to live on the website. So quick preview here. That is going to be happening sometime next week. Hopefully we're going to have the charts here, and you'll be able to see them just like you've always been able to see them. But instead of waiting for me to post a link every day, you'll be able to, it'll live on the website. You'll be able to go check them out. You'll be able to sort through all the pages, matchups. We got a little bit of work to do to make it fit and look a little bit better, but this is what it's going to look like here. Hopefully by this time next week, it'll live on the site in a full-time capacity. Still, they won't be posted until about 3 p.m. Eastern every day, but you'll be able to access them and check in to see if they're ready to go around that time every single day. So this is what we're working on. Hopefully you guys will enjoy it. It is obviously better for the website as well. So that's just what's coming. So exciting news there. But let's get into tonight's 6-game slate. We have we'll start off at the top here with the sportsbook implied totals. You got Vegas, obviously highest implied total against the San Jose Sharks, New Jersey, Toronto, Carolina, and Buffalo. Then Anaheim tied with Buffalo and Carolina for the top 5. The DFO implied total is pretty similar. Really likes the Vegas Golden Knights tonight. Also likes the New Jersey Devils, Toronto Maple Leafs, Carolina Hurricanes, and Buffalo Sabres. So pretty much in lockstep. I like the Flyers a little bit more than the sports books do tonight, but for the most part, pretty similar across both sides, which is pretty rare, actually. I'm always a little bit different, but it's good. You've got a pretty decent product when you're on pace with the market. So that's always a good sign for me, and nights like this are good. So let's get into the top 5v5 scores tonight. Philadelphia won. We've talked about them a lot. Owen Tippett, Sean Couturier came out, and they'd pretty meh the last few games. I guess only one game with Couturier back, but yeah, it wasn't very inspiring. New Jersey 1, New Jersey 2, even without Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier, looked pretty good tonight. We'll be getting to that. You got Calgary 1, Vegas 2, San Jose 1, Buffalo 1, Vegas 1, Philly 2, and Anaheim 2, rounding out the top 10. Let's break down the matchups. We'll start at the top with the Florida Panthers and the Carolina Hurricanes. Expect to see the Barkov line go head-to-head with the Sebastian Aho line tonight. We're going to see a lot of that matchup. It's not a great matchup for either side. Both these teams playing pretty well defensively. Again, the Barkov line really hasn't got a whole lot going offensively though thus far. Like obviously Reinhardt's had a good season, but a lot of his damage is coming on the power play as it typically does. This line really not getting a whole lot going at 5v5. So in a tough matchup going up against the Sebastian Aho line that's been pretty good, I probably won't be playing too much of the Barkov line. Florida 2, obviously always very popular. Their numbers are been a little bit worse this season. A lot of their sample that we've been using recently, had some of last year in it. So numbers are probably a little bit inflated. They haven't played quite as good. The numbers are still really good. 6th best offensive line on the slate, but maybe not quite the matchup proof line that we've seen from them in the past. So I like Florida 2 a little bit tonight. If I was going to play the Panthers, it'd be Florida, but they're going to see 24% of their ice time against this Jordan Staal line, which has been a juggernaut, and then they're going to see about 44% of their ice time against the Kotkaniemi line, which has been really good as well. 10th best defensive line on the slate. So really, really bad matchup for the Panthers tonight. Probably not going to go there too frequently. The Hurricanes, pretty much the same thing. The Panthers not quite as good defensively, but still been really, really solid. Matchup-wise, the Aho line's got the slightly better matchup. The Aho line's probably the one that I'll play. The offensive numbers are a lot better than the Kotkaniemi Svechnikov line. So I do have interest in this Aho line tonight, 10th best offensive line on the slate. Most of their night's going to come against the 21st best defensive line on the slate, but I'm not too concerned. The Panthers have a bit of a tough time keeping the puck out of the net, giving up a fair amount of goals pretty much every game. A lot of that to do with Sergei Bobrovsky not being particularly sharp. But I'm not going to be super overweight on Carolina 1, but I do like them quite a bit tonight. I just really like what you get with this line. I think it's a super, super talented line. 17,900. Seth Jarvis, 58. Sebastian Aho, 66. And Martin Necas, 55. I think that's really, really cheap for those guys. I'm happy to play them tonight in a night where I think that they'll be super low owned because the matchup isn't the best. We just talked about the Svechnikov line, really not getting a whole lot. Going at 5v5, 26th best offensive line on the slate, so I'm not going to go there at the moment. Carolina 3 always kind of in play. They've been just so dominant this year. $7,800 if you need a super cheap punt. There's no super, super expensive line that you have to necessarily play Carolina 3 to get to tonight. So probably not going to play a ton of them, but if you want to jam the Leafs in your lineup or jam the Devils into your lineup or jam the Vegas Golden Knights into your lineup, then obviously, Carolina 3 is certainly an option. Tony D is scratched, expecting a Carolina shutout. Yeah, so that's the one thing I was just going to mention. Tony DeAngelo is scratched, which means it looks like Dmitry Orlov is going to move to the top power play unit. He is $2,900. He might be the highest owned defenseman on the slate, but for good reason. $2,900. He's going to play on the top power play unit and play some big minutes. I'm all about Dmitry Orlov tonight. From a power play perspective, the Carolina Hurricanes have the 3rd best power play advantage on the slate. They're currently 8th on the power play, going up against the 16th ranked penalty kill. So pretty good stuff there. Orlov at 2,900. I'm in. For the Panthers, not a whole lot going on the power play tonight. 18th on the power play up against the 18th ranked penalty kill. 6th best power play advantage overall, middle of the pack. Next game, we got the Maple Leafs and we've got the Flames. Flames continue to play pretty well defensively, which is why the matchup scores aren't great for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But with Dan Vladar getting the start, I would bump them up a little bit compared to where they are in the 5v5 scores. But yeah, matchup-wise, doesn't look great, especially this Matthews line. They're going to go head-to-head with the Lindholm line. And I think, what is the second line? Is it the Kadri line or is it the Backlund line? I can never remember. I think it's Kadri. Yeah. So head-to-head with the Lindholm and Kadri line the majority of the evening tonight. Both have been pretty solid defensively, not quite as good as the Backlund line, but 13th and 11th best defensive lines on the slate. Really good numbers for them. The Matthews line, been solid, not absolutely popping like they have in previous years. 15th best offensive line on this slate. Numbers are fairly pedestrian. Toronto 2, they've been a little bit better. We saw that the other night. Tavares and Nylander continue to sizzle. Their matchup is a little bit better. They're going to see about 37% of their ice time against the 4th line, 22% of their ice time against the top line. The 4th line is by far the worst defensive line that the Flames have to offer. So with the Matthews line only seeing about 5% and the Tavares line seeing about 37%, I think that opens the door up for the Tavares line a little bit more this evening. So I'm a little bit more interested there. The 3rd line, is starting to look a little bit better, but given the fact that it's not like a great matchup, I don't think this is one where I'm going to just reach for the Maple Leafs third line. If it was a supreme plus matchup, then yeah, maybe I think they'd become a value play. But in this matchup, I think this will be not a crazy low scoring game because obviously the Leafs have firepower and they haven't been good defensively at all. Scratching John Klingberg and getting Jake McCabe back should help. But yeah, like this could still be a high scoring game. I still think the Leafs are okay in this spot, especially with Vladar starting. I lean Toronto 2. I still think Toronto 1's okay. If you take a look at the overall projections on tonight's slate, Toronto 1 still grades out second. Toronto 2 grades out fourth. So even though the 5v5 scores don't love them, the Vegas implied totals love them. And then obviously the core four for the Leafs has been super, super good this year. So like I said, be sure to use both projections and 5v5 score to try to find your best options. To me, Toronto is a pretty decent option, but certainly not at the forefront this evening. For the Flames, they just aren't scoring enough to be super interested, even in a matchup against a Maple Leafs team that has struggled defensively. I think the Leafs are certainly working on being better defensively, and I think it will eventually come in time. So tonight, I think there's a chance this is slightly lower scoring just because the Flames' offense has been fairly stagnant. But we have seen signs of life from them in recent games. Specifically, Nazem Kadri's looked a little bit better. Still not seeing anything from Jonathan Huberdeau. But overall, the Flames' top line still grades out really well with Andrew Mangiapane. This Huberdeau, Lindholm, Mangiapane line has had success in the past. Again, some of this numbers from last season, so they were definitely better a season ago than they are this year. But I do think that there's something there. The matchup is pretty decent at 66. So Calgary 1 pops here a little bit for me at 15,000. I think that they're really, really priced nicely against a Maple Leafs team that has struggled mightily so far. So don't love playing Jonathan Huberdeau the way he's playing right now, but I mean, he's so talented, or was so talented. I don't know what's happened, but at 4,400, you can kind of take the gamble on him. So 5,000 or 15,000, excuse me, to full stack them, I think is a reasonable play tonight. Calgary 2, Connor Zari's looked really good. The kids that have come up for the Flames have really have played well, and Zari's one of them that's played pretty well. Sharon Govich seems to be settling in a little bit. Like I said, Kadri's playing better. So 11,500, I think Calgary 2 is a pretty solid value option tonight as well. And then, yeah, Calgary 3, I guess, is still kind of in play, right? Backlund's still a shot volume machine. Pospisil has been pretty good. Blake Coleman scored a couple recently. So matchup-wise, they've got the best matchup for the Flames on the slate. Offensive numbers are still pretty solid, 14th best. So yeah, I think all three top lines for the Flames are okay. Again, they're not like jumping off the page for me because they just haven't been scoring a whole lot. From a power play perspective, not a whole lot there either. They're fourth best, but it's not really due to their power play. They're 25th. The Leafs have really struggled on the kill at 29th. Flames have been good on the penalty kill, though, going up against the 7th-ranked power play for the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Leafs' 7th-best power play advantage on the slate. So I do think that this game probably draws quite a bit of ownership, as the Leafs normally do, especially with the Flames not playing great. Dan Vladar starting. I think that that's going to help draw more Toronto ownership, and I think fading them is okay tonight if you're only building one lineup. I think there are better spots on this slate. But that being said, if you're building 20 lineups, I think having a sprinkling of both teams is fine. New Jersey and Washington. This New Jersey team's still playing okay. Obviously, they just gave up 6 to the Avalanche. The Avalanche are a juggernaut. The Capitals are not. And then remember last episode, we talked about how like the Capitals, man, they might finally have a 5v5 line worth stacking. And then they immediately dropped Ryan Strome from the top line and put Kuznetsov up there. And let's take a look at what that did. Wow. 39th best offensive line on the slate now, 47th best defensive line. Well, just a disaster. Makes absolutely no sense to put Kuznetsov back up there. Don't know why they did it. So yeah, once again, just not interested in Washington at all. It's back to the same old thing. From a power play perspective, they're 8th. 5v5 perspective, they're bad. To me, there's no reason to play the Capitals tonight. I do like the Devils, the top 6, still playing really, really well, even without Hughes and Hischier. So I'm interested. They've kind of balanced it out. So it's kind of you pick them, whichever one you prefer tonight because of their price discrepancy. I think it's a little bit easier to get to New Jersey too. They're like $5,600 cheaper. So, dealer's choice here, but obviously I think New Jersey 2 draws considerably higher ownership because of the price. Obviously still pretty talented with Timo Meier, Dawson Mercer, and Andre Plot. That being said, I still think that New Jersey 1 has the higher upside. Tivoli and Jesper Bratt, certainly the 2 best players on this team right now, at least up front. They've been playing better than Timo Meier and Dawson Mercer. So if they're going to be at a significant discount in ownership in comparison to New Jersey 2, then I certainly have more interest in New Jersey 1 just from a leverage perspective. So I think that that's one way to look at this. You can get some extra leverage with New Jersey 1 as opposed to plain New Jersey 2, which everybody else will also be doing. Matchup wise, they're pretty similar. New Jersey 2, slightly better, but not a whole lot, basically splitting hairs. Same thing with their offensive numbers, 4th and 5th best. So kind of dealer's choice, depending on your lineup build. Obviously, you might have to play some New Jersey 2 to fit more expensive lines in. If you're only building one lineup, I would lean New Jersey 1. From a power play standpoint in this game, the Devils also have the number 1 power play advantage on the slate. I said this the last time. This is based on the entire season so far, so a lot of this still is juiced with Jack Hughes. I don't imagine they're the second best power play in the NHL without Jack Hughes, but that being said, they've still been pretty good. Bratt has been cold as of late, though. Yeah, I mean, I think that obviously coincides with the Jack Hughes injury. Going from playing with Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier to playing with Michael McLeod, it's going to have an effect on you. So the matchup is good enough here, though, where I do think that these Devils can get back on track a little bit, especially with Charlie Lindgren getting the start as opposed to Darcy Kemper. So, take it with a grain of salt. I don't know if it's the number 1 power play advantage on the slate. If you call this the 10th best power play without Jack Hughes, I still think that they're pretty good tonight in the top 3. So I do like New Jersey tonight. It's a solid matchup. I don't have any interest in the Capitals. The Buffalo Sabres and the Minnesota Wild. Full disclosure here, pretty much guessing on the Buffalo Sabres lines. They ran lines in practice yesterday that did not include Dylan Cousins. And now Dylan Cousins is playing, so trying to figure out exactly where he slots into the lineup is a little bit difficult. I do think there's a chance that Cousins is on the top line in Matthew Savoy's spot. Savoy skated there yesterday. I'd be a little surprised if he plays there. So I had to guess. I'm not exactly sure how things are going to go, but I would definitely be keeping an eye on the warm-ups here. They start at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, so it's right before lock. So if Cousins is moved to that top line, that increases my interest in them pretty drastically. I don't even know. Is Savoy on the slate? I know he wasn't. Okay, so he is on DraftKings. I don't believe he is on FanDuel. 2,500 if Savoy is on that top power play or on that top line. Obviously, he's a great value play at 2,500. Super, super talented rookie making his NHL debut. Skinner and Thompson, very, very expensive, but he helps bring that price down a little bit at 17,700. They have a very good matchup as well. 80.9 on the matchup score. They're going to see about 75% of their ice time up against the Minnesota top 6. The Minnesota top 6 has been very, very bad defensively. So really good matchup here for Buffalo 1. I do like them quite a bit. Remember, though, I don't know exactly who is going to be on that line. I think you can guarantee that it's going to be Skinner and Tage. Whether or not it's Savoy, whether or not it's Dylan Cousins remains to be seen. Either way, I'm very interested. Obviously, if it is Cousins, they're going to be significantly more expensive. I think they're also going to be significantly more reliable. But Savoy, obviously very talented, as I mentioned already. And at 2,500, I can get in on that. The Sabres top line has been pretty decent this year. Not great. 13th best offensively. But like I said, outstanding matchup against a Wild team that continues to struggle defensively. The one thing that is worth pointing out is that it is going to be the debut of Jared Spurgeon this evening. Spurgeon back in the lineup, probably going to be paired with his old buddy Jake Middleton. You got Brodin and Faber playing well at the top, Bogosian solidifying the third pair recently. So, you knew Spurgeon was coming back soon as they traded Kalen Addison. He will certainly help them improve defensively. They have a lot of work to do. They've been bad defensively this year, and Spurgeon, I don't think, is going to be the quick fix in his first game back. He's undoubtedly going to help, but coming off a pretty serious injury, first game back in a while, I don't think he's going to make a serious immediate impact on the Sabres. So I like Buffalo 1 a lot tonight. Buffalo 2. Without Jeff Skinner, I like them less. Like when they had Skinner and Middlestad together with Peterka, I was more interested. Greenway does nothing for me. Middlestad doesn't really shoot enough. Peterka's great. I love JJ Peterka, but they're an okay value option. The matchup is a little bit worse because they're not going to face quite as much of Minnesota 1, which is just getting caved in right now. So I leave the Thompson line. Other than that, not a whole lot of interest. From the Minnesota side of things, like I said before, I really, really like the look of this top line. Like Kaprizov, Rossi, and Boldy. I mean, you'd think they would be unbelievable together, and it just has not been the case thus far. 34th best offensive line on the slate. I do think that they're interesting still, even given their struggles, just because of how much talent's on that line. But that being said, they're 18,400. They're not very cheap at all. One of the most expensive lines on the slate. In fact, They are the 5th most expensive line on the slate. So I don't think I'm really that interested. If Luukkonen was getting the start, maybe. Comrie's been solid enough. The matchup is pretty, it's below average. So I'm probably not going to play any Minnesota this evening, even though the Sabres have struggled a little bit defensively. There's just not a whole lot going here at 5v5 for the Wild to get excited about. The Sabres 5th best power play advantage. Then you've got the Wild with the 3rd worst power play advantage. The Sabres been really, really good on the kill, 9th. The Sabres still struggling on the power play, 28th, but the Wild worst penalty kill in the league right now. Again, Jared Spurgeon should help that, but I don't think it's going to make a huge difference tonight. So definitely interested in the Buffalo top line. Definitely interested in the Buffalo power play tonight. How do you feel about Minnesota's goaltending? I really liked Philip Gustafsson. I liked that trade. I thought he was solid when he was in Ottawa. I wasn't completely surprised that he had an outstanding year last year. I was surprised just how good he was. I thought it was a little bit suspect. And then you just factor in that goalies are just completely random at all times. So I think that they're fine. But if they keep struggling, they obviously have one of the best goaltending prospects in the league. And I think that they will not hesitate to recall Jesper Wallstedt if they need help between the pipes, because things have not been great lately. But I do think that a lot of it can be attributed to their defensive struggles. Getting Jared Spurgeon back will help. So I'm going to give them a few more weeks before I pass, concrete judgment on this Minnesota crease. I think Spurgeon getting back will help immensely, and hopefully Gustafsson and Fleury can both kind of right the ship here. But right now for tonight, I'm in on Buffalo for that reason. Vegas obviously going to be outrageously popular tonight. The second line has the best matchup on the entire slate. I'm really not that interested in them. I mean, you can still play them. Pretty good matchups for the Sharks, too, who are suddenly playing a little bit better. That being said, the Sharks are winning games, but they're still only getting like 20 shots and giving up 40. Mackenzie Blackwood's absolutely stood on his head the last 2 games. Good for him. He's not starting tonight. Kaapo Kähkönen is significantly worse than Mackenzie Blackwood. So I have no hesitation about the Golden Knights tonight. Obviously, the implied totals of 4.7 is insane. DFO implied totals of 4.9, just unbelievable. Husso has been shaky. Optimus Rhyme cost us last night. How long before we see Lion in net for Detroit? The only reason I'm talking about this is because I thought that Reimer play was hilarious. Like, what an absolute moron. Like, what are you even thinking? Hold on to his stick for like a millisecond just to slow him down, and don't sit there and ride his stick. Like, that's the dumbest play I've ever seen. Lion will get some action, I think. If nothing more than a showcase, Lion will get some action. Because, Husso's been shaky, and Reimer was just a moron yesterday. So, Lion will probably get some play here shortly. But back to this game. Like, the implied totals are just ridiculous. 4.7 to 2. It's like one of the most lopsided implied totals I've ever seen. Thanks for answering. Also wondering about Carolina's goaltending. Didn't they just sign Halak? This is a goaltending carousel. They haven't actually signed Halak yet. He's with the team on like a tryout basis right now. He could get signed. Right now they plan on rolling with Aranta and Kochetkov. We will see what happens there. If they sign Halak, obviously that's going to change things. But Kochetkov and Ranta are the guys right now. Sorry, I missed it. Why are you fading Vegas? Oh, I'm not fading Vegas at all. I'm here. Let's talk about Vegas right now. I've not faded them. No, they look unbelievable. I don't have a whole lot of interest in Vegas 2, I think is maybe what you caught. Vegas 2, I mean, their offensive numbers are fine. They're actually slightly better than Vegas 1. I just don't think there's like enough firepower on this line. Like, obviously against the Sharks, you don't need to have a ton of firepower against the Sharks, and specifically Kähkönen, but Will Carey, Mike Amadio, and Mark Stone don't really get me super excited that like they're going to have a massive game. They still grade out pretty well. It's 5th best. They're only 11,300. So from a value perspective, I think they're pretty good. But I just think the top line just has so much more upside. Let me hide all these. It's embarrassing. I forgot to close that. Where'd they go? Yeah, the top line, it's been pretty mediocre as well. But they just have so much more firepower. So I'll be playing Vegas 1 a lot more. 18,400. Again, I think that the second line has some decent value. The third line continues to play well. Carlson's on a heater. Dorofeyev's been, he's a pretty talented young player. Paul Carter's been fine. So they'll draw some attention. I would probably actually play Vegas 3 more than I would play Vegas 2, I think. Even though Vegas 2 pops the highest, it's mostly due to minutes. They have a slightly better matchup. Their underlying numbers are fine. But I don't think they've got the firepower to really finish off that those chances that they're generating. So Vegas 1 certainly going to be one of the highest on lines on the slate. They're unbelievable. And an unbelievable matchup. Vegas 3 is red hot, so they'll draw some ownership as well. Vegas 1 or Vegas in total has the second best power play advantage. They've been pretty meh on the power play. 17th best power play up against the 30th ranked penalty kill. The Sharks are 20th on the power play against the 13th ranked kill, the second worst power play advantage. There's not really a whole lot here for the Sharks. That being said, the top line has been fine. They play a ton as well. The matchup isn't horrible. I just don't think they're going to generate enough here on a back-to-back against a pretty good Golden Knights team. So I talked about them. I actually played them a little bit yesterday, which is hilarious because they played really well. But in this game, I'll probably just fade. But yeah, top 3 lines for the Vegas Golden Knights. I would order them: Vegas 1, Vegas 3, Vegas 2. But yeah, I'm super interested in them and their power play. If you take a look at their power play, it's a mix of all 3 lines, which kind of sucks. But Marchessault, Eichel, and Theodore are certainly a strong play. Marchessault has been pretty darn cold this entire season. Yeah, I mean, in comparison to the playoffs, he's been cold. He's never been like an elite player until the playoffs last year. So yeah, he's been pretty cold. I think that whole line's been a little bit underwhelming thus far. Eichel's shot volume has been really solid, but like Barbashev's finally starting to do something. Marchessault will get it going. I'm not that concerned. And I mean, if there's ever been a matchup to jumpstart your season, it's certainly against the San Jose Sharks team at home on a with the Sharks on a back-to-back with Kakinen starting as like minus 700 favorites or whatever they are. Ridiculous. The Ducks and the Flyers to close things out. As I said, this game was just like, it looked like whatever. You got Hart versus Dostal. There's no real injuries to speak of on either side. Then all of a sudden I was like, just kidding. Carter Hart's out. He's sick. And then everybody's like, oh my God, Carter Hart's getting traded. And then it's like, no, he's definitely not. But so Hart's out. And then so is Trevor Zegras. Out of nowhere, he was just like, yeah, I'm hurt too. So these are the new look Ducks lines. You got Alex Killorn promotion to the top line with Leo Carlson, Troy Terry, Vetrano, McTavish, and Strome. Jones, Henrique, Schilferberg. Double-digit goals for Vegas, question mark? I'll give him 9. Yeah, so the way these lines shake out, the top line's got the best advantage overall for the Ducks, and that's definitely the line that I'm the most interested in. Over here, the numbers aren't great, but when you take a look, where did they go? At the pricing, they're just 13,100. I think they're going to draw quite a bit of ownership as a result. Excuse me. But Alex Killorn, like you were playing him at 2,500 just because he was on PP1. Now he's on the top line at 2,800 and still on PP1. So I do like Killorn, Carlson, and Terry a little bit more. You're just paying a little bit too much for Anaheim 2, 17,100. Just a little too pricey. I'm fine with a Vetrano McTavish mini. I don't usually play Ryan Strome in DFS. He just doesn't shoot enough. So Vetrano McTavish mini is fine. McTavish is a better play tonight with Zegras out. He'll be back on the top power play unit most likely. But Anaheim 1 at their price just looks significantly better. The matchup's a little bit better as well, but Anaheim 2 is okay. For the Flyers, I'm certainly interested. We'll get into it. Somebody was said earlier they're surprised how high the Flyers are ranked. And here's why. Matchup score is 76.6. They're going to see 40% of the ice time against the second line for the Ducks. They're going to see about 92% of the ice time against the top 9. The Ducks top line's really been struggling off defensively. The second and third line are slightly below average to average. And then you take a look here. This Couturier, Atkinson, Tippett line has been unbelievable together. Hasn't necessarily showed up on the score sheet a little in the last couple games. They've had a couple big games. This looks like one that could be a big game. I've said it before. I do think the Ducks are a bit fraudulent. I think they've been a bit fortunate to get where they are so far. That being said, I do think that this is a team that can progress. They have a lot of really young talent. It can progress and grow and get better as the season goes on. And this start is certainly inspiring and lets you believe that there is some talent here that can certainly take that next step and get better as the year goes on. Right now, I'm not a massive buyer just based on the metrics. They look a little fraudulent. So I am on the Flyer side of this game. Ersson getting the start makes things a little bit more difficult. I think that both teams are in play. I think Ersson's terrible. So instead of Carter Hart, I definitely like the Ducks. Like I said, I like Anaheim 1 better and then Anaheim 2. From the Ducks or the Flyers perspective, same thing. I really, really like it. Philadelphia 1. Obviously, they grade out tremendously. I don't think that anybody, like any other sites or any other whatever you you guys might use or other people might use for DFS NHL is going to like Philadelphia 1 quite as much as I do, because the underlying metrics at 5v5 look outstanding. So that's another reason why I put in the projections. It gives you a better idea. These are more like the projections you'll find on other sites and what other users will be using, and you'll have you can get a little bit of a better idea, I think, of ownership using these. And Philadelphia 1 way down here, I think, suggests that they're going to be pretty modestly owned this evening. So that is that. Philadelphia 1's really good. Philadelphia 2, you've got Konechny, Frost, and Forrester. Frost coming off a healthy scratch. He's actually been pretty solid this year. Forrester's really good. Konechny's obviously a stud at 12,700. I think they're fine. Matchup-wise, it's not quite as good. They're going to see a lot more of the third line, which is the best defensive line, which isn't saying much, but best defensive line that the Ducks have to offer. So, I like that line as well. I'm a little bit less interested in the third line. They just haven't been getting anything going. So the top 2 lines are fine for the Ducks or for the Flyers. Ducks too, but Flyers for me tonight. I like both sides of this game with Ersson getting the start for the Flyers. Dostal's pretty good though, which makes me nervous on Philly. Yeah, I mean, you always have to be nervous on Philly. They only scored 1 goal against the San Jose Sharks, but that being said, like check Philly 1 should be Forrester up with Atkinson and Couturier. The news, that's what it was yesterday. And then today we got new lines here. Pull up the morning skate lines. Doesn't exist. Oh, did he blow it? Maybe he did. I'll have to look back into it. Because if he blew it, then we'll have to fix things and we'll have to change things. Because, it was Forrester on the top line yesterday. And that's why I was actually surprised that Owen Tippett, Atkinson were together. I'll look into that. These Flyers beat reporters are killing me, man. Happened the other day, happening again now. Let me look into that. If that happens, if that's the case, I'll have significantly less interest in Philadelphia 1 because their underlying numbers just will not be quite as good. They'll still be fine. I'll still have interest. And as Nick pointed out, Dostal's pretty good. Edmonton also got 1 goal versus San Jose. Yeah, they're bad too, apparently. Who knew? But let's talk about some defensemen here. Lots of good defensemen, I believe, on today's slate. Let me go back to the top. Let's go by value. Find some cheap guys. Brady Shea, 3,500. Sure. Oliver Ekman-Larsson still standing out. Gustav Forsling still standing out as very good. I really like Owen Power. Sean Walker, 3,200. Rasmus Sandin, 3,200. Mario Ferraro, the guy, 4K. Shot block menace. Brett Pesce, probably. Dmitry Orlov, undoubtedly going to be the highest owned defenseman on the slate. Zamula is still good at 2,800. Martinez, shot blocking machine. Philly will be slaughtered. Do you update the sheets up until puck drop? Typically, I do. Typically, there's no reason to. Because we already the news is locked in and we already know what the lines are. They're not going to change between now and then unless somebody gets a late scratch, but we won't know until warm-ups anyway. But because I'm going out for dinner tonight, no, that will not be the case. Goaltenders tonight, Aiden Hill, obviously not going to face a lot of shots, but an 83.8% implied win percentage is unheard of. Vanacek's fine at 82, decent matchup against the Capitals. Wool, I think, is okay at 81. Like I said, the Flames having a bit of a tough time scoring. Really like Dostal at 78, especially if Atkinson's on the top line because the Flyers beat reporters blew it. Levi is okay at 8K. Cheap goalies tonight. Who do I like? Nobody. Really? Gustafson maybe, but I do like the Sabres too much tonight to probably play any Gustafson. Vladar maybe at 71, but probably not. I don't really like any cheap goalies tonight, but you shouldn't have to play them. Everybody else is so cheap. Pricing's really soft in this game. A lot of big injuries, especially like Hughes and stuff. So, probably pay up for the goalies a little bit more tonight. Though Stahl is probably the cheapest goalie that I really like, that I feel comfortable with. Obviously, if you have to go down a little bit, it's not the end of the world. Single entry, you got money for any goalie, and wondering if I'm a coward just going Hill. I mean, Hill obviously wins this game, most likely, right? 83% chance he wins this game, 84% chance he wins this game. Is he going to be the optimal goalie tonight? Probably not, because he's not going to face a ton of shots. Like if Vanacek faces 35 shots and only gives up 2 goals, he's probably a little bit better. Same with Wool, same with Dostal. Like in a cash game, Hill, if you have the money, is the safest bet, but is he going to be optimal tonight because the shot volume? Probably not. What the hell happened to Gustafson? Such a great goal. Yeah, defense has been not good. But anyways, I can't spend too much more time on this. I'll try to update the sheets here with replacing the mess the Philadelphia Beats have created for me. But anyways, that's going to do it for today's episode of the DFO DFS Report. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Smash that like button. Smash the subscribe button. Still only about 30% of you hitting the like button. Inexcusable, to be honest with you. Free content. Come on now. Hit the like button. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you guys back here next week. Cheers.